Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, the Earth Defense ship Valiant. He looked out the big window at the stars. Today was different from other days. Today, something was coming that would change everything for humanity. "Captain, look at this," said Lisa Barnes, who worked the communications. Her voice was shaking a little. "There's a ship out there. It's huge." Jake turned to look at the screen. What he saw made his eyes go wide. The alien ship was 10 times bigger than his own ship. It was made of some kind of crystal that caught the light from the stars. It looked beautiful, but also scary. "They're sending us a message," Lisa said. "They want to talk to Earth's leaders right now." Jake had been in the Earth Defense Force for 20 years. He had fought in wars between countries. He had seen terrible things. But he had never seen anything like this. This was humanity's first. Contact with aliens from another world. The alien ship moved closer to the Valiant. Jake could see it had no weapons that he recognized, but something about it felt dangerous. It was like looking at a wild animal that seemed calm but could attack at any moment. "Captain," said his second-in-command, Lieutenant Ben Carter. "What do we do?" Jake thought for a moment. Earth had plans for this day. They had always known that someday they might meet beings from other worlds. But the reality was different. "From the plans, open a channel," Jake said. "Let's see what they want." The main screen flickered. Then something appeared that made everyone on the bridge step back. It was tall, maybe 8 feet high. Its skin was white and seemed to glow a little. It had 4 arms and eyes that looked like they held the wisdom of 1,000 years. "I am Zephyr Prime," the alien said. Its voice was deep and seemed to come from everywhere at once. "I speak for the Galactic Council. We have been watching your species." Jake found his voice. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. We welcome you to our solar system." Zephyr Prime did not seem interested in welcomes. "Your species has reached the level where you can travel between planets. This means you must now follow galactic law. You must pay tribute to the Council." "Tribute?" Jake asked. "What kind of tribute?" "Half of your military ships, most of your advanced technology, and a promise that humanity will serve the Council for the next 1,000 years. The bridge was silent. Jake felt his heart beating fast. This was not first contact the way humans had dreamed it would be. This was something else entirely. "We need time to think about this," Jake said. "You have 30 of your days, Zephyr." Prime replied, "If you do not comply, we will take what we want by force. Your species will learn to obey, one way or another." The alien disappeared from the screen. The crystal ship began to move away from the Valiant. But Jake knew it was not leaving the solar system. It was waiting. Jake turned to Lisa. "Send an emergency message to Earth Command. Tell them we need to talk to Admiral Sullivan right away." On Earth, Admiral Kate Sullivan was in her office at Luna Base, the military headquarters on the moon. She had been expecting this call ever since the deep space sensors detected the alien ship. "Patch me through to the President," she told her assistant. President Alex Carter was in the middle of a meeting when the call came through. He looked at the faces around the table, his closest advisors, military leaders, and scientists. They all knew this day might come. "Admiral Sullivan," the president said. "What's the situation?" "Sir, we've made contact with an alien species. They call themselves the Galactic Council. They're demanding tribute from humanity." The president was quiet for a long moment. "What kind of tribute?" "Half our military, most of our technology, and our freedom for the next 1,000 years." "And if we refuse?" "They'll take it by force." The president looked around the room at his advisors. General Mike Johnson, the head of the Joint Chiefs, spoke first. "Sir, we need to know what we're dealing with. How advanced are they?" "Very advanced." The admiral replied, "Their ship is huge and made of materials we don't understand, but we're analyzing everything we can." Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the president's science advisor, leaned forward. "Mr. President, this could be the most important moment in human history. How we respond will determine the future of our species." The president nodded slowly. "Admiral, tell Captain Morrison to keep watching their ship. Don't do anything to make them angry, but learn everything you can. I'm calling an emergency session of the United Earth Assembly." Meanwhile, on the alien ship, Zephyr Prime was making his own report to the Galactic Council. The image of the council chamber appeared on his screen. Hundreds of different alien species sat in a huge circle. At the center was the oldest being in the galaxy, the crystalline Archon. "Report," the Archon said, in a voice like wind through crystals. "The humans have been informed of their obligations," Zephyr Prime said. "They seem confused, as most primitive species are when they first encounter the Council's authority." "Do they show signs of resistance?" asked Counselor Vex, a large, slug-like being. "Some, but our analysis shows they are a fractured species. They fight among themselves constantly. They should submit easily once they understand our power." The Archon was pleased. "Good. Another species joins our empire. Soon, all the galaxy will know the peace of Council rule." But back on Earth, something was happening that the Council had not expected. As word spread about the alien demand, something changed in humanity. The old fights between countries began to seem less important. The arguments about religion and politics began to fade. For the first time in human history, people began to think of themselves not as Americans or Chinese or Europeans, but as humans. And humans, they were beginning to remember, had never been good at taking orders from bullies. President Carter stood before the United Earth Assembly. Representatives from every nation on Earth sat in the great chamber. The room was quiet as he spoke. "Fellow humans," he began, "today we face a choice. We can kneel to an empire we never asked to join, or we can stand together as one species. We can choose safety through submission, or we can choose freedom through unity." The president paused and looked around the room. "I know what I choose. The question is, what do we choose together?" The answer would determine the fate of humanity, and perhaps the entire galaxy. On the far side of the galaxy, in a place called Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council was meeting. The building where they met was huge, bigger than any city on Earth. It was made of materials that shined like jewels and seemed to bend light in strange ways. Inside the great chamber, thousands of alien beings sat in circles that went up and up like a giant stadium. They came from worlds the humans had never dreamed of. Some looked like giant insects. Others were made of what seemed like living crystal. Some were so strange that human minds could barely understand what they were. At the center of it all sat the crystalline Archon, the oldest being in the galaxy. It had been alive for millions of years and had seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations. To the Archon, adding new species to the Council's empire was as normal as breathing. Council or Vex, who looked like a giant slug covered in slime, was speaking about the humans. "I have reviewed all the data about this new species," Vex said in a voice that sounded like rocks grinding together. "They are perfect for our purposes." "Explain," said the Archon. "They are a warrior species, but they lack unity. Our observers have watched them for centuries. They fight constant wars among themselves. They cannot agree on anything. They have different religions, different governments, different ways of life. They are weak because they are divided." Another council member, a being that looked like a walking tree, spoke up. "What about their technology?" "Primitive," X replied. "They have only recently learned to travel between planets. Their weapons are crude, Their ships are small and slow. They would need thousands of years to become a real threat to us. The Archon was pleased, and their response to our demand? As expected, confusion, fear, and helplessness. They have asked for time to consider, which shows they are already thinking of surrender. On the other side of the chamber, a being made of pure energy flickered as it spoke. Have there been any signs of resistance? Some, Vex admitted, but nothing we have not seen before. New species always show some defiance at first. Once they see our power, they submit quickly. The Archon had seen this pattern thousands of times. A new species would be discovered. They would be given the choice to join the Council peacefully or be forced to join. Some fought for a while, but they always gave up in the end. The galaxy was too big, and the Council was too powerful. Very well, the Archon said. Prepare the collection fleet. If they do not submit in 30 days, we will take what we need. By force. Back on Earth, something very different was happening. In the deep chambers beneath the Rocky Mountains, President Carter was meeting with leaders from every nation on Earth. The room was filled with people who had been enemies just days before. The President of Russia sat next to the Prime Minister of Japan. The leader of China was talking quietly with the President of the United States. The heads of every major country were there, and for the first time in human history, they were all on the same side. The alien demand is clear, President Carter said. They want half of our military ships, most of our technology, and our freedom for 1,000 years. What do we know about their capabilities? Ask the Prime Minister of Britain. General Johnson stood up. Our analysis shows they have weapons that could destroy our cities from space. Their ships are faster than ours. Their technology is far beyond what we have, so we cannot fight them? Ask the President of France. Not in a direct battle, General Johnson replied. But there might be other ways. Dr. Elena Rodriguez had been studying the alien transmission for days. She stood up and walked to the front of the room. I've been analyzing their communication patterns and their behavior. I think I understand something important about these aliens. What is it? President Carter asked. They think like bureaucrats, Dr. Rodriguez said. They have a system, and they expect everyone to follow it. They have done this same thing thousands of times before. They send a demand. The species either submits or fights briefly, and then they add another world to their empire. And this helps us how? Asked the leader of Germany. Because they have never faced a species like us before. They think we are weak because we fight among ourselves. But they don't understand that our fighting has made us stronger. We have learned things that their peaceful empire never had to learn. Defense Secretary Ryan Mitchell nodded. She's right. We know how to fight wars against superior enemies. We know how to survive when the odds are against us. They don't. The President looked around the room. So what do you suggest? We give them something they don't expect, Dr. Rodriguez said. We give them humanity united for the first time in our history. Over the next few days, something amazing happened on Earth. The old arguments between countries began to fade. Disputes about borders and trade deals were put aside. People started thinking about themselves not as citizens of different nations, but as members of the human race. In military bases around the world, soldiers from different countries began training together. Scientists from universities that had never shared information began working on joint projects. Engineers from competing companies started building things together. Colonel Sam Davis was in charge of Earth's secret weapons programs. For decades, every major country had been developing weapons in secret, hiding them from their neighbors. Now, for the first time, all these secrets were being shared. What do we have? President Carter asked during a secure video conference. More than they aliens think, Colonel Davis replied. We've been preparing for war for centuries. We have weapons hidden in places they would never think to look. We have plans for fighting enemies with superior technology. Can we win? Asked the president. Not the way they expect us to fight, Colonel Davis said. But we might be able to. Surprise them. Meanwhile, Dr. Marcus Webb was working with the brightest scientists from around the world. They were studying every piece of information they had about the aliens. The alien ship that had visited Earth had left behind traces of its technology in the form of energy signatures and communication frequencies. I think I understand how their technology works, Dr. Webb told his team. It's based on quantum mechanics, but not the way we use it. They use it to create a kind of network that connects all their ships and planets. Can we use this? Asked Dr. Sarah Kim, a physicist from Seoul. Maybe, Dr. Webb said. If we can figure out how to connect to their network, we might be able to send them a message they won't expect. Commander Amy Foster was working with teams of engineers to modify Earth's satellites. The plan they were developing was dangerous, but it might be humanity's only chance. We can't match their weapons, she told her team, but we can make sure that everyone in the galaxy knows what they're doing to us. Back on Nexus Prime, the Council was making its final preparations. The collection fleet was ready to go to Earth. It was made up of ships from dozens of different species, all working together under Council authority. Admiral Krex, a proud warrior from the Vorthan Empire, was in command of the fleet. He had done this job many times before. He expected the humans to surrender as soon as they saw his ships. How many ships do we need? Asked his second-in-command. Not many, Admiral Krex replied. The humans are primitive. A small show of force should be enough to make them comply. But the Admiral was wrong. The humans were not like other species the Council had conquered. They had something that the Council had forgotten about during their millions of years of easy victories. They had the willingness to fight for their freedom, even when they had no chance of winning. As the 30 days came to an end, both sides prepared for what was coming. The Council expected another easy victory. Humanity prepared for the most important battle in their history. Neither side knew that this moment would change the galaxy forever. The 30 days passed faster than anyone expected. Every day, every hour, every minute was precious. Humanity worked like they had never worked before. People forgot about being tired. They forgot about weekends and holidays. They had one job: to get ready for the most important fight in human history. In military bases around the world, soldiers were training with weapons they had never seen before. Countries that had been enemies for decades were now sharing their most secret military technology. Russian scientists worked with American engineers. Chinese pilots trained with European commanders. Colonel Sam Davis had not slept properly in weeks. He was in charge of bringing together all of Earth's hidden weapons. Every major country had been building secret weapons for years, hiding them from their neighbors. Now all these secrets were being shared. "Show me what we have," President Carter said during a meeting in the underground command center. Colonel Davis pulled up images on the big screen. The Russians have been working on quantum torpedoes. The Chinese have developed ships that can become invisible. The Americans have been building weapons that can destroy targets from very far away. What about the Europeans? Asked General Johnson. They've been working on something called fusion bombs, much more powerful than anything we've used before. President Carter looked at the images. Will it be enough? Not in a direct fight, Colonel Davis said honestly. But if we use them the right way, we might be able to surprise them. In laboratories around the world, scientists were working day and night to understand alien technology. Dr. Marcus Webb had teams in every major city studying the energy traces left behind by the alien ship. I think I've figured out how their communication system works, Dr. Webb told his team during a video conference. Scientists from London, Tokyo, Moscow, and New York were all connected to the call. "Tell us," said Dr. Sarah Kim. "They use something called quantum entanglement to send messages instantly across the galaxy. Every ship, every planet, every important building in their empire is connected to the same network." "That's amazing," said Dr. Pierre Laurent from Paris. "But how does it help us?" "Because if we can figure out how to connect to their network, we can send a message to every world in the galaxy at the same time." The team was quiet for a moment. Then Dr. Kim spoke up. "You want to hack the entire galactic internet?" "Exactly," Dr. Webb said with a smile. Meanwhile, Commander Amy Foster was working with teams of engineers to modify Earth's satellites. The plan they were developing was dangerous and had never been tried before. "We're going to turn our communication satellites into weapons?" asked Lieutenant Dan Murphy. "Not weapons exactly," Commander Foster replied. "Think of them as very loud speakers. We're going to make sure that when we send our message, everyone in the galaxy will hear it." The work was incredibly difficult. The satellites had to be modified to work with alien technology that humans barely understood. Engineers worked in shifts around the clock, testing and retesting every connection. "Will this really work?" asked Dr. Lisa Chun, one of the engineers. "It has to," Commander Foster said. "It's our only chance." In the deepest parts of the ocean, human submarines were being modified with new weapons. Captain Rick Stone commanded one of these submarines. He had been told that his job was to stay hidden until the alien attack began. "What exactly are we supposed to do?" asked his crew. "We wait," Captain Stone replied. "When the aliens attack, they'll expect us to fight them in space. They won't expect us to fight them from underwater." The submarine was filled with new weapons that most of the crew didn't understand. But they trusted their captain, and they trusted the plan. All around the world, similar preparations were taking place. In the mountains of Switzerland, engineers were building giant transmitters. In the deserts of Australia, scientists were testing new energy weapons. In the forests of Canada, soldiers were learning to use alien equipment that human scientists had reverse engineered. President Carter visited military bases and research facilities every day. He saw the work that was being done, and he was amazed by what humanity could accomplish when they worked together. "In 30 days, we've done more than we did in the previous 30 years, he told his advisors. Maybe we needed this threat to remember what we're capable of. Admiral Kate Sullivan was coordinating the military response from Luna Base. She had ships from every major country under her command. For the first time in human history, there was truly a united Earth military. "Are we ready?" President Carter asked her during their daily briefing. "As ready as we can be," Admiral Sullivan replied. "But, sir, I have to tell you the truth. If this was a normal battle, we would lose. The aliens have bigger ships, better weapons, and more experience." "But this won't be a normal battle," the president said. "No, sir, it won't, and that might be our advantage." Dr. Elena Rodriguez had been studying the alien psychology for weeks. She believed she understood something important about the Galactic Council that could help humanity. "They're not prepared for what we're going to do," she told the president. "They've been in control for so long that they've forgotten what it's like to face real resistance." "What do you mean?" "They expect species to either submit immediately or fight briefly and then give up. They've never faced a species that would rather die than surrender." The president thought about this. "And that's what we're going to do? Fight to the death?" "Not exactly," Dr. Rodriguez said. "We're going to fight in a way that forces them to show their true nature to the entire galaxy. We're going to make them reveal what they really are." On the last day before the alien deadline, humanity made its final preparations. Captain Jake Morrison was back on his ship, the Valiant. But now he was not alone. He commanded a fleet of ships from every nation on Earth. "Are you ready for this?" asked his friend, Captain Lisa Wang, who commanded a Chinese ship. "No," Jake replied honestly. "But I don't think anyone could be ready for this." The alien ship that had delivered the Council's demand was still in the solar system, waiting. It had been joined by other ships over the past few days. The Council fleet was not large, but each ship was powerful enough to destroy a city. "They're not taking us seriously," observed Lieutenant Ben Carter. "That's good," Jake replied. "Let them think we're weak." In the command center on Earth, President Carter was meeting with his advisors for the last time before the deadline. "Is everyone in position?" he asked. "Yes, sir," replied Admiral Sullivan. "All our ships are ready. The submarines are in position. The satellites have been modified. The transmitters are online. And Dr. Webb's team? They've successfully connected to the alien communication network. We can send our message to the entire galaxy whenever you give the order." President Carter looked around the room at the faces of his advisors. These people had worked without sleep for 30 days to prepare for this moment. "You all know the plan," he said. "We're not trying to win a battle. We're trying to send a message. A message that will be heard on every world in the galaxy." "And if it doesn't work?" asked General Johnson. "Then at least we'll die as free humans," the president replied. That night, people all over Earth looked up at the stars. They knew that tomorrow would bring either freedom or death. But they also knew that they had done something amazing. For the first time in human history, they had worked together as one species. Children asked their parents what was going to happen. Parents told them that humanity was going to send a message to the stars. A message that said humans would never kneel to anyone. In the morning, the alien deadline would arrive. The Council expected humanity to surrender. Instead, they were going to learn what happened when they threatened a species that valued freedom. More than life, the galaxy was about to discover what humans meant when they said no. The morning of the 30th day came too soon. All across Earth, people woke up knowing that this day would change everything. Some prayed. Some spent time with their families. Some just looked up at the sky and wondered what was coming. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Valiant, watching the alien ships through his telescope. During the night, more ships had arrived. The Council fleet now had 50 vessels, each one bigger and more powerful than anything humanity had ever built. "Captain," said Lisa Barnes from her communication station, "the alien commander is sending you as a message." "Put it on screen," Jake said. The image of Admiral Krex appeared on the main screen. The alien looked like a giant lizard standing on 2 legs. His skin was covered in scales that changed color as he moved. His eyes were cold and showed no mercy. "Humans," Admiral Krex said in a voice like grinding metal, "your time is up. You will now deliver the tribute demanded by the Galactic Council. Half your military ships will surrender immediately. Your technology will be transferred to our vessels. Your leaders will sign a document promising obedience to the Council." Jake looked at his crew. They were scared, but they were ready. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. We have a message for the Galactic Council." Admiral Krex's scales turned a darker color. "You will deliver your tribute now, or we will take it by force." "Our tribute is this," Jake said. Calmly. All across Earth, things began to happen at the same time. In the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, President Carter gave the order that would change the galaxy forever. "Send the message," he said. Dr. Marcus Webb pressed a button on his control panel. Instantly, every satellite orbiting Earth began to broadcast on frequencies that the Council used for their own communications. The message was not just being sent to the alien ships above Earth. It was being sent to every inhabited world in the galaxy. The quantum transmitters that Dr. Webb's team had sent the signal across space faster than light. In seconds, the message reached the farthest corners of the galaxy. The message was simple, but it carried the weight of all human history. We are humanity. We bow to no one. We kneel to no empire. We choose freedom over safety. We choose resistance over submission. To any species listening who has been forced to kneel before this council, you are not alone. Stand with us. But the message was not just words. Dr. Webb's team had also sent technical information about the Council's weapons and ships. They had included details about the Council's military tactics and their weaknesses. For the first time in galactic history, the Council's subject species had information they could use to fight back. Admiral Krex was furious. You will pay for this defiance. Attack! The Council ships began to fire their weapons at Earth. Giant beams of energy shot down from space toward the planet's surface. The weapons were powerful enough to destroy entire cities. But humanity had one more surprise waiting. As the alien weapons reached Earth's atmosphere, they hit something invisible. The energy beams were stopped by shields that covered every major city on the planet. The shields flickered and sparked, but they held. Dr. Webb's team had reverse-engineered the alien technology and created defensive shields using the same principles. The shields could not stop the alien weapons forever, but they bought humanity precious time. Impossible, Admiral Krex said, staring at his screens. How do they have our technology? Captain Morrison smiled. We're fast learners. The Council ships increased their attack. More and more energy beams hit the shields. Some of the shields began to fail. But every time a shield was destroyed, it sent information about the alien weapons across the galaxy, species that had been conquered by the Council hundreds of years ago, suddenly had detailed information about the weapons that had defeated them. They learned that the Council's ships were not invincible. They could be stopped. They could be resisted. Meanwhile, Jake Morrison led Earth's fleet in a desperate attack against the Council ships. The human ships were much smaller and less powerful than the alien vessels, but they fought in ways that the Council had never seen before. Human ships worked together in small groups. They used tactics that seemed crazy to the aliens. Some human ships deliberately crashed into Council vessels, destroying themselves but causing serious damage to the enemy. They're attacking like madmen, Admiral Krex told his officers. They're not following any logical battle plan. Sir, said his second-in-command, they're not trying to win. They're trying to buy time. Admiral Krex realized this was true. The humans were not fighting to defeat the Council fleet. They were fighting to keep the battle going as long as possible. But why? The answer came from across the galaxy. The Council's communication network was flooded with messages from worlds that had been quiet for centuries. The slave species were talking to each other. They were sharing information. They were planning. On a mining world in the Andromeda sector, workers who had been digging metals for the Council for 300 years stopped working. They had heard humanity's message. They had learned about the Council's weaknesses. We don't have to live like this, said a worker named Zix to his friends. The humans are showing us the way. The same thing was happening on farming worlds, factory worlds, and military bases across the galaxy. Species that had forgotten what freedom meant were suddenly remembering. Back on Earth, the battle was getting worse. The human shields were failing one by one. Council ships were getting through and destroying buildings. But every attack was being broadcast across the galaxy. The alien weapons were not just destroying human cities. They were destroying the Council's reputation. Species across the galaxy could see that the Council was willing to kill innocent people to maintain their power. President Carter watched the battle from the command center. He could see that humanity was losing. But he could also see that something amazing was happening. Sir, said Admiral Sullivan, We're getting messages from across the galaxy. Dozens of species are declaring independence from the Council. How many? President Carter asked. Hundreds of worlds so far, and the number is growing. On the bridge of the Valiant, Jake Morrison was preparing for his final attack. His ship was badly damaged, and most of his crew was injured. But they were still fighting. "Captain," said Lisa Barnes, "I'm picking up transmissions from the Council fleet. They're getting reports from all over the galaxy. Their empire is falling apart." Jake smiled. "Then we did it. We sent our message." "Sir," said Lieutenant Carter, "the alien commander is hailing us." "Put him on screen." Admiral Krex appeared on the screen again. His scales had turned almost black with rage. "You have doomed your species. Even if you destroy us, the Council will send more ships. We will never stop hunting you." "Maybe," Jake sighed, "but you'll be hunting us in a galaxy full of free worlds, and we won't be alone anymore." The Admiral's expression changed. For the first time, he looked uncertain. "This is not how it was supposed to happen." "No," Jake agreed. "This is how it was supposed to happen. This is what happens when you threaten a species that chooses freedom over safety." Across the galaxy, the revolution was spreading faster than the Council could respond. On Nexus Prime, the Council's homeworld, the Crystalline Archon watched reports of rebellion coming in from every sector. "How is this possible?" the Archon asked Counselor Lex. "The humans have given them hope," Lex replied. "Hope is the most dangerous thing in the galaxy." The Archon had ruled for millions of years. It had seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations, but it had never seen anything like this. "Order all fleets to return to their home sectors," the Archon commanded. "We must stop these rebellions before they spread further." But it was too late. The message had been sent. The galaxy had heard it. And once hope was awakened, it was impossible to put back to sleep. On Earth, the battle was reaching its end. The human fleet was almost destroyed. The shields were failing. But humanity had accomplished something that no other species had ever managed. They had shown the galaxy that the Council could be resisted. They had proven that freedom was worth fighting for, even against impossible odds. The tribute the Council had demanded was resources and submission. The tribute humanity sent was far more valuable, the knowledge that no empire lasts forever, and that the desire for freedom can never be completely destroyed. The galaxy would never be the same. The galaxy was on fire, not with actual flames, but with something far more dangerous to the Council: the fire of rebellion. What had started as humanity's desperate message had become a revolution that spread faster than the Council could stop it. On Earth, the battle was almost over. Captain Jake Morrison's ship, the Valiant, was falling apart around him. Most of his crew was wounded or dead. The ship's engines were failing, and life support was running out. "Captain," said Lisa Barnes weakly from her damaged communications. "Station. I'm picking up more transmissions. The rebellions are spreading to the core worlds." Jake could hardly believe it. The core worlds were the oldest and most loyal parts of the Council's empire. If they were rebelling, it meant the entire galactic government was in danger. "How many worlds now?" Jake asked. "Thousands," Lisa replied. "And more every hour." Through the broken windows of his bridge, Jake could see the Council ships still attacking Earth. Admiral Krex was determined to make humanity pay for what they had done. But Jake knew that even if Earth was destroyed, the message had already been sent. Meanwhile, on a factory world called Kepler 442b, something was happening that had not been seen in 300 years. The workers were standing up to their council. Overseers. The planet was covered in massive factories that produced weapons for the Council's armies. The workers were a species called the Deltans, who looked like tall, thin humans with blue skin. They had been slaves for so long that most of them had forgotten what freedom felt like. But then they heard humanity's message. "We don't have to live like this," said a Deltan worker named Vex to his friends. "The humans are showing us that we can fight back. But they have weapons," said another worker named Kira. "They have ships. What do we have?" "We have something." "They don't," Vex replied. "We have nothing left to lose." The Deltans stopped working. They walked out of the factories and surrounded the council administration building. They did not have weapons, but they had something more powerful. They had hope. The same scene was playing out on hundreds of worlds across the galaxy. Species that had been conquered centuries ago were suddenly remembering what it meant to be free. On the water world of Aquatica, the fish-like nautiloids stopped harvesting the sea plants that fed the council's armies. On the desert world of Sandstone, the insect-like hive queens declared their independence and began building weapons instead of council monuments. The most shocking rebellion came from the Yastian spiral-armed defense fleet. These were military ships crewed by species that had served the council faithfully for thousands of years. But when they heard humanity's message and saw the technical data about council weaknesses, they turned against their commanders. Admiral Voss, a reptilian officer who had served the council for 50 years, stood on the bridge of his battleship, watching the rebellion spread. His own crew was looking at him with new eyes. "Admiral," said his second-in-command, Lieutenant Zara, "we've received orders to attack the rebel worlds." "What are your orders?" Admiral Voss looked at the faces of his crew. These beings had followed him into battle many times. They trusted him. Now he had to make the most important decision of his life. "We will not attack innocent worlds," he said quietly. "We will not be the council's attack dogs anymore." The bridge was silent for a moment. Then Lieutenant Zara smiled. "What are your orders, sir?" "Set course for the Kepler system," Admiral Voss said. "It's time to help some rebels." Back on Nexus Prime, the council was in chaos. The great chamber where they had ruled the galaxy for millions of years was filled with panic and confusion. Reports of rebellion were coming in so fast that the communication systems could not keep up. The crystalline Archon had not moved from its central throne in days. The ancient being was trying to understand how everything had gone wrong so quickly. "Status report," the Archon commanded. "Counselor Vex." The slug-like being who had been so confident about conquering humanity looked terrible. His usual slime was dried up from stress, and his eyes were red from lack of sleep. "The situation is catastrophic," Vex reported. "We have lost contact with over 2,000 worlds. Military fleets across 7 sectors have mutinied. The core production worlds have stopped sending supplies. How is this possible?" Asked the tree-like council member from the botanical sector. "We have maintained order for millions of years. The humans gave them something we thought we had destroyed," said the energy being from the plasma region. "They gave them hope." The Archon was quiet for a long time. When it finally spoke, its voice was filled with an emotion that the council had not heard in millennia: fear. "Send messages to all loyal fleets," the Archon ordered. "Tell them to return to the core worlds immediately. We must protect what we still control." But even as the orders went out, more reports of rebellion came in. The revolution was spreading faster than the council could respond to it. On Earth, the final battle was reaching its end. The human fleet was almost completely destroyed. Only a few ships were still fighting, and they were barely holding together. Captain Jake Morrison knew that his ship would not survive much longer. But he had one last message to send. He opened a communication channel that would reach every rebel world in the galaxy. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force," he said. "We know we're going to lose this battle. Our ships are destroyed, our cities are burning, and most of our people are dead or dying." He paused and looked around his damaged bridge at his loyal crew. "But we want you to know that we're not sorry. We're not sorry we chose to fight. We're not sorry we chose freedom over safety. And we're not sorry we showed you that the Council can be beaten. Admiral Krex appeared on Jake's screen one last time. The alien commander looked tired and angry. You have doomed your species for nothing, Krex said. Even if these rebellions succeed, the galaxy will fall into chaos. Millions will die. Maybe, Jake replied, but they'll die as free beings, not as slaves. And that makes all the difference. Jake's ship finally lost power. The Valiant drifted helplessly in space as Council ships prepared to destroy it. But Jake was not afraid. He had done what he came to do. As the alien weapons charged up for the final attack, something unexpected happened. A new fleet appeared on the edge of the solar system. But these were not Council ships. Captain, Lisa Barnes called out with her last bit of strength, "You need to see this." On the screen appeared ships from dozens of different species. Some Jake recognized from the intelligence reports about Council military forces. Others were completely unknown. "This is Admiral Voss of the Free Fleet," came a voice over the communication system. "Sorry we're late. We came as soon as we got your message." Admiral Krex stared at his screens in disbelief. Half of his own fleet was turning against him. Ships that had been part of the Council Navy for centuries were now pointing their weapons at their former allies. "This is impossible," Krex muttered. "The fleet cannot mutiny." They swore oaths to the Council. "Oaths to tyrants are not binding," replied Admiral Voss. "We serve freedom now." The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Council ships fought against rebel ships in the space above Earth. But it was not really a battle anymore. It was the birth of a new galaxy. Ships that had been enemies for thousands of years fought side by side against their former masters. Species that had never trusted each other worked together for the first time. The Council fleet was defeated, but that was not the most important thing that happened. The most important thing was that the galaxy learned a new word. Hope. In the months that followed, the revolution spread to every corner of the galaxy. The Council's empire, which had lasted for millions of years, crumbled in less than a year. Some worlds chose to join together in new alliances. Others decided to remain independent. There were wars and conflicts, as Admiral Krex had predicted. But they were wars between free peoples, not between masters and slaves. On Earth, the survivors began to rebuild. Most of their cities were in ruins, and millions of people had died. But they had accomplished something amazing. They had changed the galaxy forever. President Carter, who had survived the battle in the underground command center, spoke to the survivors. "We paid a terrible price for our freedom. We lost friends, family members, and loved ones. Our world is damaged, and it will take years to rebuild." He paused and looked up at the stars. "But when our children look up at those stars, they will see a galaxy full of free worlds. They will see a universe where no species has to kneel to anyone. And they will know that humanity played a part in making that possible." The tribute the Council had demanded was submission and resources. The tribute humanity sent was something far more valuable, the knowledge that freedom is worth any price, and that hope, once awakened, can never be completely destroyed. Years later, when historians from across the galaxy wrote about the Great Revolution, they would mark its beginning not with the first shot fired or the first world liberated, but with the moment when humanity chose to send a message of defiance instead of a shipment of tribute. The galaxy was free, and it would never be the same.